Ms. Grindy, I'm going to hand you, first of all, let's see if these are in order, a document, and I want you to, first of all, just take a look at the entire document, and then I'm going to ask you a question about the page 3.
Yeah, can you identify the exhibit?
Oh, I'm sorry, Your Honor. Yes. For the record, Your Honor, what I'm showing is a document that is dated, or excuse me, that is, the thing is entitled Plea Disposition Agreement. It was filed on June 13th of 2006.
What's the exhibit?
It is exhibit number 1. Do you recognize that?
I do.
Okay, and on that page, page 3, do you recognize the signature that is above the line that's designated for defendant?
I do.
And what does that signature indicate?
It indicates that Andrew Romero signed it.
Okay, and do you recognize that signature?
I do.
And is that the signature, the same signature of the Andrew Romero that you knew as a case manager and a parole officer?
It is.
And now I'm going to hand you State's Exhibit 2, which is a document that's entitled Consolidated Repeat Offender Plea and Disposition Agreement, filed on March 31st, 2010. Same process. If you can take a look at that, please, the entire document. And then I'll ask you about the signature page.
What was the date? The filing?
2. Let's see that. The end date?
The filing date.
Oh, the filing date, March 31st, 2010. And on that signature page, do you recognize the signature that is indicated on the line above the defendant?
I do.
And whose signature is that?
It's Andrew Romero.
And is that the same signature that you know to be the signature of the Andrew Romero that you knew as part of your duties as a case manager at the Department of Corrections as well as a probation officer?
It is.
Okay, and finally, I'm going to hand you a document. State's Exhibit. What did I tell you those numbers were, Judge? I told you wrong numbers.
1 and 2.
I think I told you wrong. The first one was 3. The second one she looked at was 2. That was correct. And this one is State's Exhibit 1. And this is entitled Repeat Offender Plea and Disposition Agreement. And this was filed January 26th of 2015. Again, if you could please take a look first at the whole document, and then I'll ask you a question about the signature page. Okay. And on that signature page, do you recognize the signature that is above the line that's indicated for the defendant?
Yes, I do.
And whose signature is that?
It's Andrew Romero again.
And is that the same signature that you recognize as being the signature of the Andrew Romero that you knew as a case manager at the Department of Corrections as well as a probation officer in Albuquerque?
It is.
Okay. Thank you. Nothing further.
Ma'am, I'd ask you to take a look at what's been identified as State's number 3. It's the oldest of the 3 documents.
Mm-hmm.
And the filing date on that was June 13th of 2006, correct?
Correct.
And when did that sentence end?
I don't have that information of when the sentence ended.
Okay. Do you have a JNS? Have you been provided with a judgment and sentence in this case? In that case? Okay. And so you can't, do you have any information on whether that sentence ended more than 10 years ago?
It was not 10 years ago because this was a case that he was on when I was his classification probation officer.
So that was the case that Mr. Romero went to the penitentiary for?
Yes.
Okay. And how much exposure, based on this plea and disposition agreement, did Mr. Romero have at the time?
I'm not sure how much exposure he had. I know that when I was getting ready to leave, I took him to the parole hearing, which was close to around 2012.
Okay, all right. No further questions, Your Honor.
May we direct?
Yes, Your Honor.
I could approach one more time, Judge, and I will need one more.
I'm going to hand you what's been marked State's Exhibit 4 and ask you to take a look at that.
What does that appear to be? What is that?
It's a J&S for the case that, voluntary manslaughter case in 2006, when he was sentenced.
And were you the case manager when he was incarcerated on that particular offense?
I was for part of his time, the end time.
Okay. And as part of your duties, are you familiar with reading J&Ss and determining how much time a prisoner has?
Yes, I am.
Could you take a look at that document and tell us what his, as Mr. Clark just put it, his total exposure was and when his sentence would have ended?
His exposure was 42 months. He also received pre-sentence of 352. So it should have been somewhere around, depending on good time that we can't have any way of knowing, about 2010, somewhere in that area.
Okay. Now, that sentence, that J&S, does it also include a two-year period of parole following his release from custody?
2-year parole and 5 years probation.
All right. Thank you. Nothing further, Your Honor. And, Your Honor, I would ask that States Exhibits 1 through 4 be admitted for the purpose of this hearing.
Without objection.
Will be admitted. You may sit down. You may sit. You call your next witness.
The State will rest at this time. We have no further witnesses.
The defense has no witnesses, Judge.
Let me see those exhibits. Any argument at this time, Counsel?
Your Honor, I think under the habitual enhancement statute and as well as the supplemental that we filed, the testimony today of the probation and parole officer it clearly establishes that Mr. Romero's prior convictions as outlined in the supplemental information are valid and correct. The identity is valid as well as the convictions, and under the statute, I believe that we have proven by a preponderance of evidence that these convictions are valid and that Mr. Romero is a habitual offender and should be sentenced accordingly.
Nothing, Your Honor. Judge, before you pass sentence, may we approach real quick? May we approach?
We'll take about a 5-minute recess anyway.
All rise.
Andrew pointed it out. Andrew pointed it
I really wasn't looking at it. Sorry. I didn't want you to think I was mad down or something.
Yeah, look at me in the eye, I noticed you taking a burger. How are you?
Just keep this going.
But I guess that's. Still there now. We got that. I'm with her, it's all
I need a coffee. Call Copenhagen, see, they should be attending this. They have the number, it's from my dispatch dialed this morning. This morning I did, but she didn't answer. Yeah, and tell them that there are some about people. Take care of it.
It's just the state legislature.
Twice, you have to, something's not something, you're trying to do stuff. No, make I think this yesterday. Oh, yeah. When I get up here, I'm gonna check this. I'm gonna do that. You know, I thought we were done with all this.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Maybe see that. With regard to count one of supplemental information, and it deals specifically with cause number D202 CR 2005-3349, on the find by the preponderance of the evidence that Mr. Romero is the same person convicted of those crimes. The issue I'm having with the other two counsel is that you haven't provided the court with a judgment and sentence, just a fee and disposition agreement, and the law is pretty clear until a written order a written judgment and sentence is presented, there's not a conviction. I'll allow the state to reopen their case and provide those elements directly on these.
Thank you, Your Honor. I do have the certified copies, which we've shown to Mr. Clark, of those two JNSs, if I could approach.
And I looked them over, I think they're the same day, but I need those for the record, the J and S on those.
I'm going to go ahead and hand Your Honor, State's Exhibit 5 and 6, which are the two JNSs that correspond to those counts as requested by the court.
Okay, with respect to count 2 of the criminal information, I'm going to find the preponderance of the evidence that Mr. Romero is the same person convicted of the charges as alleged in count 2 of the supplemental criminal information. And with respect to count 3 of the supplemental information, I'm going to find the preponderance of the evidence that Mr. Romero is the same person that was convicted in count 3 of the criminal information. As such, Mr. Romero, on the charges of in the current case of tampering with evidence, count 2, tampering with evidence, count 3, shooting at or from a motor vehicle, count 4, conspiracy to commit armed robbery, count 5, and aggravated fleeing from law enforcement, count 6. Each one of those will be
Just what was count 6, Sean?
count 6, aggravated fleeing.
So aggravated fleeing, conspiracy, shooting at or from, and tampering.
It was count 2 is tampering with evidence. Count 3 is another count of tampering with evidence. Count 4, shooting at or from a motor vehicle. Count 5, conspiracy to commit armed robbery. And count 6, aggravated fleeing a law enforcement officer. Each one of those sentences will be enhanced by a period of 8 years, and those will run consecutive to the sentences that were originally handed out to Mr. Romero. In addition, for purposes of the record, I'm going to ask the district attorney to file an amended judgment sentence to reflect this court's ruling, and for purposes of appeal, this, because Mr. Romero has a right to appeal, when we file this amended judgment sentence, that will start the time for purposes of filing his appeal. Okay. Anything further at this time?
Judge, may we approach
Well,
that?
before we do that, Your Honor, Ms. Benner wasn't able to be here, but she does have a letter that she wished Ms. Nuanes Baca to read to the court.
Good morning, Your Honor. My name is Adeline Nuanes-Baca. I'm the Victim Advocate Coordinator with the 13th Judicial District Attorney's Office, and I'm reading this letter on behalf of Mrs. Julie Benner. Good morning, Judge Eichwald. My name is Julie Benner. I am writing you this letter to ask you to impose the maximum sentence possible. Andrew Romero was still committing crimes while incarcerated, awaiting trial. He will never change. An example needs to be set that this is not acceptable in New Mexico, as well as here in Sandoval County. Again, Your Honor, please, I ask you to impose the maximum sentence possible on the habitual time that is allowed. Thank you for your time. Sincerely, Julie Benner, wife to Officer Greg Nigel Benner, Rio Rancho police officer, killed in the line of duty on May 25th, 2015. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
And Ms. Baca noted the court did in fact impose a maximum penalty by running these consecutive to each other. Okay. Counsel, approach the bench.
I'm here now, I have my equipment.
Please do. She's able to do Yeah, I just sense that it puts strong things on the hot spot because
Thank you, sir. And, Mr. Hudson, let me, before you leave, I'll give you a copy of the judgment.
Okay.
All right.